I'm Natasha Chilingarian.
I'm Michael Ogden. This is Shared Accounts with CU Times. In an effort to not talk about anything newsy like the NCUA that could totally change by the time this episode comes out, I have decided to list out my 5 favorite television shows as a kid. I've given this a lot of thought. I'm just kind of in the television mode right now for some reason. So, Natasha, producer Zach, if you have any thoughts about your childhood television watching, please chime in. But here's my top 5. Again, given a lot of thought. Okay, number 5 was Cheers. I loved that show. That show was so funny. So funny. Okay, number 4, real nostalgia one for me for some reason. WKRP in Cincinnati. Did you ever know that one, Zach?
Oh, I never watched it, but I'm very aware of it.
Yeah, you're in that part of the country.
We're a small enough big town that if you say Cincinnati, we pay attention.
Yeah, okay. WKRP.
And of course, as God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly.
Yeah, exactly. It was such a bizarre show. Okay, number 3 is a show I brought up before an episode or two ago that I watched with Mom, Heart to Heart. It was with Robert Wagner, who used to be married to Natalie Wood.
Right.
He's still alive. He's 95, I think.
Oh, wow.
But what a fun show.
All right.
Yeah, kind of a grown-up show, but I really dug it as a kid.
Okay.
By the way, I met Robert Wagner
Oh.
years ago. Do you know who he is? Do you know who I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, because I'm a huge Natalie Wood fan. So, yeah, I know the whole story and the whole, was he involved in her death on the boat?
Oh, my God.
And why did you, that's a whole other story, but.
Okay. When we come back from this first segment, in our next segment, I will tell you my Robert Wagner story, okay?
And I would just like to say I'm holding down the contingent of listeners who knows Robert Wagner from Austin Powers.
Exactly. Yeah, same guy.
Oh, and I loved that movie as well. So, yeah he had many phases of him.
He did.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 2 on my list, Police Squad with Leslie Nielsen. So this was a very short-run television show that was before the Naked Gun movies came out. Same character. You guys remember the Naked Gun?
Oh, absolutely.
Movies?
Yeah.
Leslie Nielsen?
I think of them as the O.J. Simpson movies.
Sure. Yeah. This show, Police Squad, if you can find it out there, is legit some of the funniest stuff you'll ever see on television. And it was a very short, like 1-2 seasons, maybe. Oh my God, that was funny. Okay. And number 1 on my list, I adored this show for its simplicity, for its quietness. I just loved it. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. There.
Well, Michael, that's the only actual kid show on the list, which is what
I
strikes
know.
me the most about your list. I mean, what were you doing watching all these kind of adult shows? I don't know what age you're really talking about, but they're kind of, especially the local news one cracks me up that you would want to watch that as a kid. I don't remember watching local news until I was in
Oh no, WKRP in Cincinnati? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, what is that? That's not, I don't know anything
that was
about
a
that.
sitcom. No, that was a sitcom.
Oh, it was a sitcom. I thought it was the local news. I'm like, why were you watching that as a kid? What was going on in your head? Okay, all right. I apologize. Not from the Midwest, so
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I loved it. No, it was Dr. Johnny Fever and Venus Flytrap.
Okay.
Google it. You'll see it. It was Lonnie Anderson was in the show.
Okay.
Anyway, it was a really bizarre show. Okay. But yeah, I watched cartoons, and stuff. And this list it kind of go from when I was a little kid to, let's say, almost high school,
Sure.
of what I loved.
Yeah.
By the time I was in high school, I was too busy, didn't watch television.
Right.
I was working and going to school. But do you all have any thoughts for your childhood list?
Yeah, I mean, mine are more embarrassingly childish, I guess, because it was
That's okay.
But I definitely watched cartoons. I remember getting up and rushing to go just turn the TV on at 5 a.m. in the morning and
oh my God,
off. My parents were still in bed. I have a memory of that actually, just running and pushing the button on the TV. Yeah, I think my
Oh, that's
favorite
wonderful.
favorite cartoons were this is really embarrassing, the Muppet Babies, I remember was, like, a favorite.
Oh, sure.
Another
Yeah.
one, Garfield and Friends, loved Garfield. I
Okay.
remember had the
Great.
Garfield books, like the comic
Oh,
strip
yeah.
books.
Yeah.
And then another one that I like, this is also really embarrassing, it was called the Tasmanian Devil, and it was like I guess it's an
Mm.
actual animal that's in Tasmania
Yeah.
or Australia. Like this
Sure.
weird made all these weird sounds and like spun around in circles. And I remember
Yeah,
watching it
yeah,
Saturday
yeah.
mornings, like was my go-to show
Yeah, he was
for some
an
reason.
that character was an offshoot of Coyote Roadrunner.
Okay, yeah. Similar to that, yeah.
Yeah, that's
But I
cool.
remember liking it because I was just really weird as a kid. I would do all these make all these strange comments and noises and I don't know, impressions and I
Really?
don't know. Just very weird to think about now. But I remember liking
I love
that.
it.
That was like my spirit animal, apparently. And then a
Nice.
couple others that I just thought of actually in the past
Mhm.
few minutes while you were talking here. One of them, these are like with actual people in them, but like for children.
Mhm.
It was this Lamb Chops play along with
Sure, Lamb Chop.
Sherry. It was this actress,
Y
Jerry
and I
Lewis.
guess she had a show in the
Yes.
60s, but then there
Yep.
was like the Lamb Chop character was reintroduced in the 80s as
Yeah,
like a kids
right.
show with puppets, like hand
Yeah,
puppets.
it was a
Yep.
sock puppet
Yep.
called Lamb Chop. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, remember that. And then finally one, Shelley Duvall, remember her,
Oh, yeah.
had this show for kids called the Fairy Tale Theater. And I just
Oh, I
Googled
didn't know
it to
that one.
see what, and it started in 82, so that makes sense for me when I was a
Okay.
kid. And it was, I guess Robin Williams was in it at one
Oh my
point playing a
gosh.
prince. So like I guess different well-known
Huh.
actors were in it, just like recreating different like fairy tales. So that would be
That's
really funny to rewatch.
I have
Yeah.
to find this because
Yeah.
this is just a couple of years after The Shining came
Oh
out.
Yeah, I
yeah.
just looked it up, 1980, because I was thinking the same
Yeah.
thing, Michael.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So
Natasha,
that's
thanks
what
for sharing.
it was a good time for TV as an 80s baby, I
You
tell
know
you.
what? You're
I think
not
it
wrong.
was. I don't know
Yeah.
what it's like
Zach, do you
now,
got anything?
yeah.
No, either.
Yeah, so the two that immediately come to mind, I'll do one cartoon, one non-cartoon, is
Okay.
I was born in 86, and being a little boy, I think I was obligated to love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Of
Sure.
course. Oh.
Sure.
Just obsessed. I actually there's pictures of me as like a 4-year-old. I had a Turtles backpack. Didn't go to school yet, but I'd walk around with the backpack filled with all of my figures, so I always had them with me.
Mm.
So,
Hey, Zach, weren't you dressed up as one of the turtles for Halloween?
I'm sure I was.
Because I think you shared a photo
think
with us for
so.
the Halloween
Yeah.
episode.
I know the picture I think we posted was Dick Tracy,
Oh, crap. Okay, I forgot.
because I know there's a picture of me with a magic marker beard.
Mhm. Okay, what's your other show?
Oh, the other show is I had an older sister that she loved it, and then I just started watching it because it was on every day after school was Saved by the Bell.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So just shows like randomly picked that an 80s kid watched, hit right there.
Did Saved by the Bell have a weird time element to it? Like time could stop?
So how much time do we have?
I don't know. Whatever. You're the producer. You
Yeah.
have to edit this.
So it was way more frequent early in the show, but
Okay.
Zach Morris, the main character, would have an ability where he would freeze and like talk directly to the camera, breaking the fourth wall.
Okay.
But they got away from that. That was really in the early episodes.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go, folks. We did not talk about the NCUA at all. So this was a much
Yes.
better conversation.
Much better.
Natasha, producer Zach, thank you for that. Hey, everybody else, welcome to Shared Accounts with CU Times. Coming up, we're going to be chatting with Lauren Culp. She is the executive director of the National Credit Union Foundation. She recently took over the top job at the foundation following the retirement of longtime executive director Gigi Highland. We are looking forward to you hearing that conversation we had with Lauren, so stay tuned for that. First up, let's do like we always do and take a break from this week with Natasha. Hey, Ann.
Hey, Em. How's it going?
How you doing? How's your new
Good.
place?
It's better. So
Okay.
so for the listeners, if you're not aware, I did have to move. It's been
Mhm.
almost 2 weeks now, and it was a bit of a rough transition. I would say that
Oof.
first weekend. It's funny
Right.
because I moved so many times, but I don't remember a move that was really this stressful and
Uh,
irritating.
I'm sorry.
So yeah, well, basically the cause of the stress was the fact that it was a Friday night. Arrived here. It was a 3-hour drive from where we previously were living.
Oh,
Got
Lord.
here, ready to get at least something because you can't like get everything in one
Mhm.
shot. You have to kind of do it in increments. Walked in, and the house was. It appeared that whoever prepped the house for the next person moving in was not expecting us because it
Oh,
was
no.
not cleaned. Like it was not clean
Yuck.
at all. And my standards,
Mhm.
it was filthy. I don't know. Maybe some people have different cleanliness standards. It was filthy,
Ugh.
and like there was all this stuff just from the owner, and it came
Yeah.
furnished, so it made sense to have like for pieces of furniture, but not like, oh, here's a drawer full of old random stuff that the person didn't throw away. It's like, what? I shouldn't have to
Mhm.
throw that out. So we did get it resolved. We had them, the property manager got cleaners in here, and we got it like finally resolved, but it was awful.
Ugh. I'm sorry.
Now it's good, but it was really bad
Good.
at the beginning.
All right. Well, welcome
Yeah.
home, home sweet
Thank
home.
you. Thank you. Yes.
Okay. I want to get to my very quick Robert Wagner story
Sure. Yes.
that I
Please
teased,
do. Yes.
and then we'll talk about what we've been watching. So, Robert Wagner was married to, well, he's still alive, still married to Jill St. John,
Okay.
who's also an actor. They were in town in Madison, Wisconsin, where I was a reporter at the time. And there was some sponsorship element to this, but they were performing a two-person show called Love Letters. Fine, it's a famous show.
Okay.
Look it up if you need to. But they were in the theater in Madison, and I was told I could meet them. I could meet Robert Wagner. I am a huge, like you, Natasha, Natalie Wood fan.
Oh, nice.
I loved her acting.
Oh,
I was
love her.
devastated when that whole thing
What's your
happened
favorite
on
movie of hers?
West Side Story. I believe you have a different answer, I think, right?
Yeah. So my favorite, I think this was the movie that introduced me to her. It was called Splendor in the
It's a
Grass
great movie.
with Warren Beatty playing opposite
Oh, yeah.
her. And yeah, I think my mom introduced me to it. I think we like rented the
Mhm.
VHS from the library. Like they had it there and she's like, "Oh, you should watch this." And
Great movie.
I just loved that movie. It was
Yes.
so good. And then I started watching some of her others. Yeah, West Side Story obviously a classic,
Eh,
but yeah, that other one was lesser known. That was my favorite.
yeah. No, that's a good one. So anyway, we'll have a whole other conversation if I think Robert Wagner did it. But anyway, I was told I could meet Robert Wagner and Jill St. John backstage before the show. And I'm like, absolutely. I loved Heart to Heart and all of this. And I was such a snot at the time. I asked his publicist, I go, can I ask him if he killed Natalie Wood? and,
Oh my
and
god, you're
she
just
said,
kidding.
no. She said, no, if you do that, I will kick you out of the theater. I was like, that's fair. Okay. I said I was
Yeah,
kind of
you said that.
joking. Interesting. Anyway, so I met Robert Wagner, lovely man. He gave me an autographed photo of himself I still have somewhere.
Oh,
That's my Robert Wagner
that
story.
is so fun. And well, what year was this? Do you
This would
know?
have been about 96, maybe
Okay.
97, somewhere in there.
Okay.
But it was good. Very handsome fella.
Oh, sure. How fun. Yeah.
Let's get back to what we normally talk about. What did you
Yeah.
watch this past weekend?
Well, so due to moving, I
Hmm.
have not been watching much. It's been just crazy. So many things you have to do when you move. So I don't really have anything significant to talk about today, but I can share. It just made me think of I have a funny celebrity meeting story from when I
Great.
was a literal baby that I'd
Okay.
like to share very briefly.
The floor is yours.
So I was, I don't know how old, less than a year old. So I was born in Los Angeles. So I was living in LA at the time.
Mhm.
My mom took me out to this very, very well known deli that I believe is still there. It's in Studio
Okay.
City. So it's a neighborhood in the valley of Los
Mhm.
Angeles. I think it's called Arts Deli or Arts Delicatessen.
Okay.
And my mom is standing in line with me at the deli, and in line with her is Walter Matthau.
Whoa.
And apparently, the story is that he turned around and said, "What a sweet baby. Do you mind if I hold
Oh.
her?"
Oh
And
my
she's like, "Well,"
god.
she's like, "normally I wouldn't let a stranger hold my baby, but it was Walter
It's
Matthau."
Walter
So
Matthau.
apparently, he lifted me up in the air and he tickled me under the chin and said, "Coochie, coochie, coo." And then he handed me back to my mom. And of course, there was no photo because people didn't just carry
No.
cameras
Right.
around with them back then. But
Right.
that's my special Walter Matthau story.
You know what?
I was a baby. So
That's
fun.
the best story. I loved Walter Matthau.
I know.
In
I
Taking of
know.
Pelham 1, 2, 3. I loved him in Bad News Bears. God, what that's a great story, and I've never heard that
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
Oh,
He passed away. I don't know how many years it is now, but I
it's been
remember
a bit.
Grumpy Old Men was
Grumpy
the
Old Man.
fun kind of
Sure.
one of the last movies he did that was really fun. So yeah.
Oh, that's
So anyway,
wonderful.
that's my
Great story.
contribution to celebrity sightings. But I'm
Yeah.
sure since you have not been moving, you have probably been watching lots of TV. What have you been watching?
I'm gonna pull up one movie I never saw. I totally missed it as a kid. Came out in 1977 called The Deep.
The Deep. Oh, sounds familiar.
It was coming off the heels of Jaws and the
Mm.
whole deep sea scary stuff. And Nick Nolte, Jacqueline Bisset, Robert Shaw, who was also in Jaws, is in this. It is a stupid movie and just ultimate 70s, you know. It was
Is it
dumb.
scary, or was it
No,
supposed to be scary? No?
no.
Okay, 'cause I didn't watch it, but I remember my mom again, back to mom
Sure.
with old memories, like, talking about that movie, saying, "Oh, I remember this movie called The
Yeah.
Deep," as if it was something really scary
It,
or
it,
intense,
it was
like,
marketed that way, but
uh
no, it is not.
right, probably
No, but again, it was just playing off of the success of Jaws,
right.
doing
That
kind of
fear.
spooky underwater things, but no, there was nothing scary about it at all. But Jacqueline Bisset, she looked fantastic. Nick Nolte with an insane 70s hot bod, it was a fun watch. I dug it. The Deep.
Okay. Alright.
So,
That's a fun one, yeah.
all right.
And speaking of that, I just recently, for some reason, saw a picture, I think it was just on one of my social media feeds of someone, like, riding the Jaws animatronic, and it was like, "Here's an old photo of"
Mm.
from someone f and it just looks so fake and dumb, that
It
Jaws thing, it's like,
sure.
"What?"
It was fake and dumb, but
Funny though. Yep.
great movie though. Oh,
Back
you know
then,
what?
yeah.
This is
What?
I believe this month as we're recording is the 50th anniversary of Jaws coming out. I believe that's
Oh,
correct.
really? Oh, wow,
Yeah.
that's yeah,
Ooh, I should rewatch that
makes
thing.
sense. You should, yeah.
All right.
That is a good one, definitely.
It was a great one.
All
Yeah.
right, well, we've been distracting ourselves for
I
quite a long
know.
time here
I
from
know.
real work, so let's move on to our interview.
Okay.
As you said in our introduction here, spoke with Lauren Culp. We're very happy to speak with her. We've been wanting to
Mhm.
talk with her since she got this new role at the National Credit Union Foundation.
Right.
Few highlights from the interview. She talks about what it was like transitioning into her new executive director role, which she took over from the retiring Gigi Highland. So she
Mhm.
had big shoes to fill there. Another tidbit that was really interesting is she did have some really good news to share regarding both program funding at the foundation and
Mhm.
also about DEI, two things
Yeah.
that have, sort of been threatened, obviously, under the new administration this year. Some good news there. Finally, she gave a shout out to the person who she said really got her hooked on the credit union movement in the
Yeah.
beginning and go
Yeah.
on to pursue a career in it. And I love those stories. I just
I
love
do
those
too.
kind of, yeah, old stories about who really inspired you, motivated you to kind of, go full on into this credit union movement as a
Yeah.
career. So that was definitely fun. We have all of that coming up next.
Walter Matthau.
Joining us in the virtual studio today is Lauren Culp, Executive Director of the National Credit Union Foundation. Hey, Lauren, welcome to Shared Accounts.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here with you.
Happy to have you, Lauren. So, Lauren, yeah, it's great I know we've met in the past, right? I think it was at a couple of different conferences, so it's good to reconnect with you again.
Around Credit Union land. Yes, you're
Oh,
everywhere.
yeah. Absolutely. So, yeah, we have a lot to talk about today, a lot of different topics. It's busy right now in the credit union world, but wanted to start off just kind of asking about your new position, because you've now been executive director of the National Credit Union Foundation since late last year. Wanted to just ask how that's going so far for you. So what can you tell us how you ended up getting into this role? What appealed to you about it? And then also, I know you took over from Gigi Highland, who recently retired. So I'm sure that was quite a transition process. So yeah, I wanted to hear how it's going for you so far.
Well, it has been, I've lost track of how many months, I think 5 at this point,
Yeah.
but it has been just an amazing journey so far. You asked about what appealed to me about the role. I would say that the National Credit Union Foundation's work and its mission has always really struck me as a differentiator for our movement. You know, how many industries can say that they collectively give to this national foundation that's focused on helping consumers achieve financial well-being together? It's so special, and I think it really sets us apart. And so I was drawn to the chance to work with so many credit unions who are doing such amazing work in their communities already. And I was drawn to this idea that with everything going on in the world, the National Credit Union Foundation can really be this connector and make it easier for credit unions to keep doing that good work. And so we've been asking, how can we tell those stories? How can we solve for the challenges that we all face in helping our members and our communities achieve financial well-being? And there are a lot of roadblocks to achieving financial well-being. So there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the role has been going great. We have an absolutely amazing board at the National Credit Union Foundation. We're also an America's Credit Unions affiliate organization. And so they've been so supportive. The team here is amazing. So all the stars aligned for me. And during the transition, I was really fortunate to have a full month of overlap with Gigi before her retirement. So we spent December together. And Gigi has spearheaded financial well-being for all, and the legacy that she built will carry on for many, many years to come. What she's done and where she's brought the National Credit Union Foundation is so remarkable. So it's an honor to follow in her footsteps. As many people have told me, I have big shoes to fill, but I'm up to the challenge.
Awesome.
Of course. And so let's turn that page from Gigi to you, and going into your first year as executive director of the foundation. What are your biggest priorities really at the highest level? You were kind of hitting some of them, I think.
Yeah. I do, as I said, I do have this wonderful board of really passionate, insightful, wise credit union leaders. And so together, what we've been talking about is how do we go deeper and help credit unions, stay equipped to really impact their communities? What are the challenges that they're facing, that credit unions are facing when it comes to helping folks achieve financial well-being, and where can we step in to make it easier? So, the conversations that we've been having in the boardroom are all about equipping credit unions and what resources don't exist that they need. Or is there a way, we just saw the Maine Credit Unions campaign for ending hunger that won a Robert Wagner Award for Outstanding Program. Is there a way that we can say, okay, here's what they did, let's document that, and now a credit union in Washington can start somewhere without having to start on a blank piece of paper? So we've been talking about that. There's an incredible community also of CUDE graduates. We have over 3,000 credit union folks that have graduated from the Credit Union Development Educator Program. And so our team's also working on how do we stay engaged with those folks? How do we continue to change our communities together? And if you've ever tried to register for DE, you know that there's a long wait list. So, we're asking the questions, how do we scale? How do we get more people through? And I would say, just as far as the team goes, there's just such an amazing culture. It's so collaborative. And it's such an honor to be able to work with so many different credit unions to help change the world together. So that's really what I'm excited about. Biggest priorities. There's a lot of work to be done, but I know our team is really up to the task and really excited to get going too.
Can I ask, that's mainly external. Can I talk about internal a little bit with the foundation? Any way you're trying to kind of make this your own or adjusting to the internal, workings of the foundation?
Well, the biggest adjustment for me is that I came from a Google Suite company and now we're on a Microsoft. But aside from that, aside from learning Microsoft Teams, I would say that there's already so much overlap for me with the culture. the foundation. And, every leader brings their own flavor, their own style to an organization, but there's such a great team dynamic here already. The staff is so dedicated and so passionate about what they do. The team across all levels of the organization, and I would say this extends even into the America's Credit Unions folks, everyone has been so supportive of one another, so collaborative. And I don't have any big sort of internal changes other than we're excited to talk more about how we can continue to go deeper. And I think from a team perspective, we're all remote across the country. So we're looking at, we do typically have a couple of in-person staff meetings a year. And how do we keep that vibe going? It's hard to build new relationships virtually. I think it's easier to translate existing ones online. That's been my job this year is building those relationships.
Fantastic.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was going to follow up with, as well as whether it's remote or not, because you said with Teams being the biggest change, that's what you're looking at. So, no, well, I know, trust me, I know that remote, yeah, you want to get out there when you can face to face. So, but it's also has its many benefits. So, yeah, so let's move on. I wanted to ask about, and this is just kind of tied into, a lot of news that's been happening this year, impacts to the credit union industry, but wanted to ask just like, how is the foundation funded? Because obviously, there's been some, it's been a rough year regarding cuts from the federal government. One thing that happened was the cuts U.S. aid greatly impacted the World Council of Credit Unions, something we've been covering here at CU Times. But we were curious how that touched the foundation at all. Like, do you receive any funding from the federal government for any of your programs, or have you been insulated from that whole situation?
We don't receive funding from the government for any of our programs right now. And I think in the past there were different grants that we had, but those were many years ago. Obviously, it's such a tough time, and our hearts go out to everyone affected by funding cuts, by freezes. It's been a tough year in the nonprofit world, certainly. We at the National Credit Union Foundation receive our funding primarily through corporate giving from credit unions and credit union system partners. We also have individual donations, the foundation dinner, sponsorships, and things like that, a little bit of program or investment income, but nothing from the federal government. So we were lucky in that regard. I think certainly as the economic environment affects credit unions, sometimes you see changes in giving. But at this point, we're in as good a position as you can be given the uncertainty.
Okay, that's good.
Lauren, I wanted to ask a bit too. This has also been in the news, DEI actions being taken or not taken really anymore in the industry. Where does the foundation stand with DEI right now?
What I know to be true is that as credit unions, we were created by people who wanted to help their neighbors, their communities, and the people around them who were really being left behind by the traditional banking system. And that's what we continue to do to this very day as an industry. And at the National Foundation, we're really committed to doing the work to make sure that we're a place of belonging for all. And whatever you choose to call it, whatever label or acronym you want to put behind it, we really want to ensure that as the National Credit Union Foundation, and I believe as our industry too, that we stay true to that mission at the center of what we do to help the people around us. This idea of diversity, equity, and inclusion was actually adopted as the 8th cooperative principle by the industry a few years ago. And I think regardless of what you want to call it, we know that it matters deeply to treat everyone with dignity, with empathy, and with respect. And so creating a place where everyone belongs is what's kind of forefront for us here at the National Foundation. And if you give it a label, you give it a label, but that's the work that we want to continue to do.
Yeah, and we take clues from NCUA, America's Credit Unions, kind of where the issue sits, because NCUA has rolled back everything, basically 100%, canceling their event and all of that. Not saying that you all are doing any of that. We just like to check in because, like you mentioned, it is the 8th cooperative principle, but we're just not seeing a lot of activity around that anymore, especially this year.
Yeah, as a whole. So, Lauren, I was just curious, have you heard anything from other credit unions that you talk with, that Foundation works with, about their DEI programs? Because it sounds like we've kind of tried to look into it, but I think for one, if one was going to get rid of it, they probably wouldn't advertise that, is my guess. But do you feel like just the industry as a whole, so not just at the Foundation, but just credit unions in general, are they, as a result of this kind of almost attack on DEI from the federal government, do you feel like they're really doubling down? We are still representing this and it's important? Or what are you hearing?
I can't speak for, all credit unions or even for the industry as a whole, but what I've observed is, I would say, very similar to the stance that we've taken, which is that the work to make sure everyone is included and everyone belongs and that we are reaching everyone isn't going to stop and really shouldn't. And it's something that every single one of us can get behind. So that's what I've seen across the space. I haven't seen, to your point, I don't know that credit unions have made headlines one way or the other, where some of those really big organizations in our nation have. But I certainly think that it's at our roots to be including people and making sure that they're represented and they have access to the banking systems that they need to be able to achieve economic prosperity. And so I think that's what we continue to do.
Right. Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, let's move on to another pretty big initiative that the foundation does every year, which is the Robert Wagner Memorial Rewards, so it took place at GAC just last month. So just curious, because that sounds like that was like your first one, obviously, as executive director. It's a huge event. How did it go? And was there anything throughout the process of planning it and organizing it, anything that surprised you along the way about this program or how it works behind the scenes?
I will say, yes, it was my very first foundation dinner as executive director. I've been going for probably, 8 or 9 years now. And it is always my favorite night of the year. The Herb Wagner Memorial Awards are so inspiring. And it's about, these world-changing humans who are putting credit union principles and values into action every day and really changing their communities. And so it was just in March. So it feels like a lifetime ago, but it was just a month or two ago. We're celebrating Debbie Weggy, Mike Valentine, Terry Robinson, and the Maine Credit Union's Campaign for Ending Hunger. It's just amazing. If you walk out of there without having shed a tear, you've done something wrong. And it's so cool. I would say seeing behind the curtain a bit, it's not really a surprise, but the biggest learning for me is really just how much care and energy and passion goes into the event. It was really amazing to watch the super talented people and all of the things that they do to make that night a success. So I'd be remiss if I did not give a huge shout out to our wonderful team here at the foundation who make it possible. And if you're wondering how much work goes into it too, I'll say it's April as we're recording this and we're already planning for next year. So we're already off to the races. It's one of those. But this year was also, I think, the second highest attendance we've ever had at the dinner. And so it was a really great time celebrating some amazing people.
Nice. Oh, that's good. Yeah, I saw you very briefly when I was at GC. I was only there for 20 hours or whatever. But so, yeah, you were running around. I'm glad to hear the dinner went so well, the gala and everything. And honestly, yeah, that's a big event. So it's not shocking that you're already planning for next year now. Yeah. But that's wonderful. I want to ask you, brought it up a couple of times about financial wellness. It's a big topic, a big issue for you all. What are the challenges from your perspective at the foundation that credit unions kind of have helping communities achieve financial wellness, and what maybe should they be doing differently to succeed better with these efforts?
Well, that's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
Financial wellness efforts, I think, to be successful, really have to be woven into our strategy and throughout every part of our organization. It's how we set our strategic plan. Are we putting that financial well-being at the center? It's conversations in the boardroom, but it's also the products that we build and the policies that we set and the way that we market and who we market to. It really has to be holistic to be successful. I would say some of the challenges that we experience as an industry are, to me, related to scale. It's hard to start from scratch. There's 1,000,001 priorities for credit unions today. If you started to list them off, technology, cybersecurity, fraud, keeping up with regulations and compliance and, member experience and digital, it goes so deep. And so it's easy to think of it as just another checklist item. But really what we would see be successful is when a credit union doesn't have to recreate the wheel. They don't have to start from scratch. They can use someone else's learning. This is what worked for that credit union and this is what doesn't work. And I would say therein also lies our greatest strength. It's a challenge that we are smaller, if you compare us to a big bank, smaller institutions, and our collaboration and the way that we work together as an industry to come, solve these challenges, I think that's the biggest strength that we have. And so the foundation is working on this exact question. How can we succeed even more and changing our communities and helping the folks around us achieve financial well-being. And I think that that's something that you'll be seeing some more from us on is ways that we can be that connector and make it even easier, because it is a tough time to be a credit union. And I think it hasn't ever, in history, it's been, this is one of the most important times to double down on who we are too.
I agree.
Right, absolutely. Also, speaking of, wellness and help and assistance to communities, another major initiative at the foundation is the CU Aid program and disaster relief. And that name always comes out whenever there's a major hurricane hits like the Gulf Coast and people rally to help out with that disaster relief. I was curious just to hear a little bit more about that program this year, and just knowing that, there are more and more severe weather events happening, obviously, with climate change and all that. How are you kind of approaching that initiative this year? And what does that look like, even just given the fact that it might be needed even more with so many severe weather events happening?
Right. There do seem to be more and more severe weather events lately. And what I've said about CU8 is you hope you never need it, but when you do, it's really there to support our credit union family. The National Credit Union Foundation is really proud to host and administer the CU8 program. And so really the intent of it is to provide funding for credit unions, credit union employees, and credit union volunteers to get back on their feet quickly and back to serving their communities after they've experienced a severe weather event or a disaster. And so what we do is mobilize industry giving, and every dollar donated to CU8 goes directly to disaster relief for the folks in our industry. So it doesn't get kind of skimmed off the top, if you will. And we work with these amazing league partners and state credit union foundation partners to administer the funding. They do, sort of boots on the ground. They're in those regions where disasters are occurring, and we're providing the CU8 funding out to them to share out with the folks who need it most. And last year we granted over $750,000 in CU8 funds.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's quite a bit. And it is always so inspiring to me to see the way that our credit union community rallies around when someone needs help. And so those funds supported 972 credit union people from 101 different credit unions, so many different disasters that continue to pop up. One of the really interesting changes that was made to the CU8 program a couple of years ago was intended to help answer sort of your question around, well, if there's more and more events, what do we do? Originally, the program was open so that CU8 funding was sort of activated when there was a disaster for that specific disaster.
Yeah.
Now we fundraise for CU8 all year long. So we are always accepting donations so that funding is already there if there's a disaster, or if there are multiple disasters in a row. We've got kind of a deeper well to draw from to be sure that we're serving our credit union family as best we can. So that was a big change to the program that was made to help answer that exact question. What do we do if there are more events? And keeping it open year round for donations has been a big game changer.
I think that's really, really important, because I remember in previous years before that change, Lauren, it was CU8 would get activated a week after a hurricane or whatever. And I'm like, hey, dudes, it's been a week. What's happening? So I think this is a very smart move. I'm really glad you're running that. I think it's just a very smart way to approach really a catastrophic situation that just kind of lurks around the corner all the time. But I wanted to ask you this question, Lauren. I've been thinking about you and how you've progressed through this industry and how you've had a number of different points of view from your positions. And I don't really want to ask about the challenges of the credit union, but I'm interested in how are you viewing the industry differently now with this newer position at the foundation?
That's such a great question. The things that I've been able to see have, to your point, I started my career at a credit union, and I got to work then at the Fleeing Research Institute. I was over at CU Insight, and now here at the foundation. It has been a very sort of diverse background. What really stands out to me about this industry, a couple of things. I think, first of all, there are so many layers of support woven into our movement for credit unions, and they come from all angles, whether, you're thinking about someone like you all, writing the news that credit unions need, or you think about a Feline or any of the amazing vendor partners, league partners, national organizations. There's just so much support for credit unions, and everyone really wants to put their collective weight behind this industry to make sure that it not only stays around, but thrives and stays really, really successful at accomplishing the things that we're here to do. So that would be one of the biggest, most sort of heartening things for me, is how many people are really committed to ensuring that our movement stays successful. And I think on the other side, sometimes we get very insular, where we are talking to the same people and hearing the same keynote speakers. And I think it's so valuable when we can pause and look outside of our space for best practices, for ideation, for insights, and bring those back, because I think that we do run the risk of getting left behind if we aren't continuously evolving to keep up with the market and a world that is changing at a very frantic pace. So I think that it's sort of a twofold, it's amazing that there's the support system, and we have to be sure that we're continuing to evolve, or we will very, very quickly get left behind.
Yeah.
Right.
Great.
Yeah. Well, you've had quite the journey so far, Lauren. I wanted to go back just like to the very beginning of that journey and ask you, because I know you started, you say your first job in the industry was at a credit union in Alaska. What drew you to that, like in the very beginning at that credit union? And then also, then just deciding to go on and create a career around the credit union movement. Do you have any kind of a story or something specific that inspired you to just commit to, okay, I'm going all in with credit unions in your career?
I did not mean to end up in credit unions. It was an accident.
Like most of us. Yeah, that's usually the answer everyone.
That tends to be the case. But yes, I was living in Alaska. I had actually moved there when I was 18 because I spent the summer there for a summer job and I loved it. So I'm not from Alaska, but spent about 6 years there. And I just had transferred schools to the University of Alaska. So I was going to school and I needed a job. And as luck would have it, the local credit union, True North Federal Credit Union, had some tuition reimbursement. And I think it was probably a class a year or, something like that. So it wasn't outlandish, but it was what I needed at the time. So I started working there, didn't know what a credit union was. I had a friend who had actually worked there that said, oh yeah, it's kind of like a bank. And so that's, kind of like bank. Good enough, I think, at the time. It was not a humongous credit union. I think at the time it was probably 140 million in assets. And the amazing thing about that is getting to wear a lot of hats and see more broadly across the organization. And I have to give a lot of credit to the CEO at True North, who was there when I was there and is there today. Her name is Lauren McVeigh, and she was constantly encouraging her staff to go to national events, apply for programs with Feline or, other organizations. I went at the time to CUNA Business Lending School. I was doing some business lending, and she really encouraged her team to get involved in the industry on a national level. And I just kind of got hooked on this amazing cooperative model. I crashed the GAC as a crasher. And I think that was kind of the moment where I thought, I could probably make a career out of this. And, I still have my worries about our movement. I've got a while to go before I can retire. So, what will it look like 30 years from now? Sure. But I hope that this is an industry and we're all working to make sure that it's an industry that stays around and is able to continue to make that huge impact.
With that perspective, Lauren, do you have any advice for young professionals getting into the gig right now who maybe aspire to being an executive level person in the industry?
I was lucky enough to get connected to just an amazing network of folks. The Cooperative Trust and the Crash program did that. I got to join in for the Filene I3 program. I would say, I still stay in touch with some of the connections I met at the CUNA Business Lending School, now America's Credit Unions. And so I think that it's really the people that you're able to connect with along the way that I would say made a big difference for me. I was able to lean on mentors, on peers, and it's kind of a two-way street. And I would say being able to have those folks to lean on was probably the best advice I ever got. Is that it's not about applying for a job or something like that. It's not necessarily always about the qualifications, but it's about the people that who can kind of help you get there. And I would say I feel as though I have a fair amount of, I don't have a word for it, but like figure it outness. I might not have done this, but I bet I can work hard enough to figure it out. And if I don't, I know I can call XYZ person who has done it. So I think it's a little bit of that. And I would say I've tried my hardest to raise my hand, say yes, ask for more, and really think holistically about the organization. What matters to my boss, what matters to our team, what matters to the industry, and kind of act with ownership. So, but I would say it really all comes back though to those people.
Very good.
Right. Absolutely. All about networking, all about the people. I totally agree with that. Okay, Lauren. So let's move on to part 2 of our interview. We have been talking about you a little bit, but we're going to talk even more about you and about you outside of work. So first question, and I'm glad you clarified that you did not grow up in Alaska. That's what I was curious about. Where did you grow up? What's your hometown?
I grew up on the East Coast, so Baltimore is where I come from. A Ravens fan, all that good stuff, and we spent some time in Charlotte too. So I would just say East Coast in general.
Yeah.
How big of kind of institution was Old Bay seasoning in your childhood?
Well, I still miss getting some crab flavored potato chips, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, it's hard to do in Denver.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
My brother lives in Denver, he and his family, and they do miss seafood. So they go to California every now and then, or Massachusetts, just to get some good seafood.
I know that landlocked seafood doesn't quite taste the same.
No. Let me ask, going back to Alaska for a second, are there misconceptions about living in Alaska? Like, is there something you would want to tell somebody who's never been there? Like, hey, it's not like this, you know?
I would say, first of all, it's very big. People underestimate how big it is, bigger than Texas.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
And there are just a ton of microclimates. And so where I was in Juneau, it was Southeast Alaska. And I think people think it's very, very cold. And actually what it is very, very wet. It rains all the time. Yeah. I think it's got to be something like 300 days a year of precipitation. And
oh my God.
So it's beautiful, even in the rain. It's extra beautiful in the sunshine. And I would say I was really surprised moving to Wisconsin for my job at Feline for the temperatures to get into the negative 30s that very first year. I thought I was moving south and getting somewhere warmer. And then a vortex hit. But Southeast Alaska, I think the coldest it really got while I was there is probably maybe single digits, but positive single digits.
Yeah.
Sure,
So
sure.
I think just all the different climates, all the rain in Southeast Alaska, that would be probably the biggest surprise.
Right.
Awesome.
Probably a different story up in like Fairbanks, though, right? Isn't that like,
yes, exactly. I like that.
Yeah. Well, no, I've never been to Alaska, but I want to go for a trip specifically to see the bald eagles. I think there's like a area you can go and do a tour, and I love bald eagles, so I think that'd be really fun. Yeah.
Lauren, if you want to hear how much she loves bald eagles, just listen to any episode before this one.
Well, I have to say, if you go to Juneau, you don't need the tour. You can just drive past the dump, and there are a ton of bald eagles.
They are.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. They're feeding off they'll eat anything. Okay, good. That's a good tip. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Natasha, you got your vacation planned.
Yes, that'll happen. All right, moving on. So, Lauren, this next question is kind of related to your professional life. Not really. I was just curious because, I see you as someone who really, like, you've done so well in your career, like, early on, like just you were CEO at CU Insight, now executive director. And I just see you as like, oh, she was, you're like a natural leader type. I'm curious, like when you were just like growing up, did you have some early experiences of just being the leader, like of a group, or getting a taste of like leadership in general? Like, and then when did you know that like being the leader of a group and then eventually of an organization was something that would be a fit for you and your personality?
Well, I will say I am the oldest of 4. I have 3 younger brothers, and that's probably where it came from. Got kind of bossed around as a kid. I was in charge during the summer when my mom was at work. And so, maybe it starts there. I don't know. I think, though, the moments that I would say, I want to lead this or I want to run that, I think it didn't really come from wanting to be a leader necessarily. I think it came from I see a problem and I see a way to solve it. And, I see potential impact that we could make together. And I think it's kind of drawn me to different roles. Even at Feline, when I was running the cooperative trust, I was a team of 1, but I got to kind of shape a program. And I think that, I didn't necessarily feel like, oh, I need to lead people, but I want to be able to make the world a better place. And so I think that that's what it's really been about for me is, I've got, some ideas, and I think that there's more that we can do. I will say being a leader of people is a lot harder than it looks from the outside.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I think that there's been a lot of learning along the way, but really it's come back to what can we do in the world? And I think that's where it's originated.
Nice.
Follow-up question. With 3 brothers, and you do not have to name names, do you have a favorite?
Oh, that's put me on the spot there, Michael. No favorites.
Okay, fine.
But Yeah, I would say it was nice when I was the tallest, and now they are all taller than me, sadly. So,
Oh, okay.
yes,
Fine.
yes, I've got nothing for you there.
Okay, that's fine. Another question here. What's the top destination kind of on your travel bucket list right now?
Well, you mentioned that I'm out in Denver these days, and it's a
Hmm.
big United Airlines hub, and you can get nonstop a lot of places. They just started a new nonstop route to Rome for the summer,
Yes, they
and
did.
so
Ooh,
I'm hoping to hitch a ride on one of those flights. There's nothing like a
yeah.
nonstop flight, I have learned. Coming from Madison where you've got to connect everywhere, it is nice to get
Yeah.
on one plane, get off the plane, and you're there. So it's going to be, I think it's a long flight, maybe 14 hours or something like that, but I think Italy is probably top on the list.
Got to tell you, my sister-in-law and their daughter, my brother's wife and daughter, they are going to Rome on that flight this summer.
Well, maybe I'll see
Like
them
next
there.
month
You
or
should hitch a,
something.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
Yeah.
Lauren, if you
they're
do
going.
go, yeah, if you do plan a trip, let me know because I went, I think it's been 3 years now. I went with my best friend and we stayed in Rome. Yeah, I would definitely recommend staying in there's a neighborhood called, I'm not pronouncing it right, but Trastevere, I think. And it is just the cutest, like, cobblestone streets, restaurants everywhere, really bustling. We had an Airbnb
Sure.
like right in the middle. And it was a good location just for getting to the sites too. So if you do end up going, let me know. I might have some
Yeah.
recommendations. I went a
That
few
sounds
years back.
Nice.
It's awesome. Yeah.
amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
I will let you know. I have a good friend that actually majored in Italian in college. And so I'm hoping to drag him along too as a tour guide.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, very nice.
Translator too. Yeah. Okay, next question. We ask all of our guests this. Again, going back to your sort of childhood, young adult years, what was the first album that you ever bought or remember like listening to all the time?
I think my answer is very embarrassing. First of all, I will say that I'm not really an album listener. I am more
Yeah.
of a Spotify make a
Sure.
playlist for me
Sure.
kind of listener. So I
Yeah.
Yep.
actually think that probably the earliest album that I remember listening to is some kind of like kids cassette tape with a bunch of like sing-along songs.
Sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Probably
Like
the
Kid Bop.
earliest. And I don't know what it is now, but I'm sure that there were like hand motions to go along with the songs and that sort of thing. You'd have to, stick the eraser or the pencil into the cassette tape to rewind it.
Sure.
So
Sure.
yeah, I don't know. I think I'm not an album listener. So that's what's embarrassing about it. Not the kids' songs, but just that there are so many artists that put so much time into the mix
Mhm.
that they put on their
Yeah.
album, and I just ignore it.
Well, it could be CD, cassette. It doesn't really matter. But was there an artist maybe growing up that you were like, oh, I love?
No, I think I'm just
Okay.
I have a lot of diverse music tastes. I really can't think of any, but I will say what really brings me back is sort of early 2000s. We call it angsty teen music. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
maybe something in that category.
Like Avril Lavigne.
Yes, exactly. Avril Lavigne or,
Okay.
like a Panic at the
Love
Disco or
her.
something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Love.
Definitely.
Great picks.
Well, I was just going to say, I think, Lauren, I totally get what you're saying about that because I feel like this question is kind of geared toward people that are a little older where it's like you would go out and buy the record. Like that was what people did.
Well,
But I think
maybe
now
we should change the
we
question.
should change it based on generation, maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Because I don't like if I'm asked that question, I can't think of like an album I bought. Like I remember ordering the buy one CD, get 25 free from BMG, like that catalog. Like that's what I think of. But it wasn't like, oh, I went to the record store and bought the
Sure.
release of
Sure.
Fleetwood Mac or whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, just wanted to
We'll change the
chime
question.
in on that.
Be more
Sorry.
general.
All right. You heard it here. It's changing.
Last question for you. What was the last movie you watched?
It is not profound in the slightest, but just the other day, Tim, my partner, suggested we watch Office Space. I think it was from 1999.
Yes, it is.
Oh yeah.
Yes, it's a classic that I had never seen, and not working in an office, I think, makes it funnier. It's less personal because you're like, oh, I do this every day. So not working in an office makes it a lot funnier, and so Office Space is the last one.
Okay.
Nothing to really read into there, though.
No, we never do. We just ask.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite movies, I think, of all time. I did work in offices years ago, and I could relate to the movie, so it was probably the worst experience for me. But no, it's just such a good one. It's just a classic. Movies were so much better back then. But
Possibly.
anyway, Okay, Lauren. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to spend some time with us today. Yeah, so for all our listeners, this was Lauren Culp, Executive Director of the National Credit Union Foundation. Thanks so much again, Lauren. Best of luck in the, as you continue in your first year at the foundation. And yeah, we hope to talk with you again soon.
Thanks, Natasha. Thanks, Michael. Great to be with you guys today.
Thanks, Lauren.
And to all of our listeners, thank you for downloading today's show. Please subscribe to Shared Accounts with CU Times in all of those normal podcast places. And please share the episodes with your coworkers, friends, family you like, family you don't like. Just share it, please.
Please, please, please. And feel free to rate us 5 stars only, of course. As always, thank you to our producer, Zach Heisel. Thanks, Zach. Join us again next week for a new episode of Shared Accounts with CU Times. Until then, thanks for listening.